This is a loop, and you can see through Sunday what was going on into early Monday. Let's start the loop over here. We're going to go back a full 24 hours, and you can see as we start Sunday morning, some of these heavy rains that rolled through St. Louis. They had at one point about 4 inches in downtown St. Louis. That created some urban flooding. There was flooding up into the Milwaukee area as well, and now a lot of heavy rain working across portions of Kansas, Wichita getting hit with very, very heavy rain. But I do want to take you to the Midwest, where strong storms slammed several of the states over the weekend. First, we'll take you to Nebraska. Repairs are underway at the state penitentiary in Lincoln. This security video shows strong winds ripping the roof off the facility. No one got hurt, but officials say 400 prisoners have been displaced. Wow, look at that. In Wisconsin, this video shows the Milwaukee River violently raging through Riverside Park after historic rainfall caused the flash flooding. The National Weather Service says the river hit a record high crest more than 11 feet on Sunday. That broke the previous record of 10.4 feet in 2010. So it was up another 7 inches or so. Here's another look at the flooding there. You can see cars almost totally submerged outside American Family Field, which is a stadium where the Brewers play. Wow. Just incredible to see that. Now, we take a look again, still more rain back across portions of Kansas, and again, the Wichita area getting hit. There's a frontal boundary there and low pressure riding along that front. You can see some of the wet weather triggered out ahead of this cold front that has been sagging closer into Wisconsin. And then we've also seen some pretty heavy rains in spots down along the southeast coast. As we take a look, we'll zoom in here and just show you where some of that heaviest activity is. Southeast Kansas working into the southwest part of Missouri here within the next few hours. That will continue to track along. So that area is kind of on the edge of this level 2 excessive rainfall or flash flood threat that is out for today. So again, southwest Missouri, southeast Kansas, across a good section of Oklahoma here and back into North Texas. Those are the areas most likely to see some excessive rainfall. In addition, down along the Florida coast here, right along the Gulf, you could see some intense rainfall, maybe some flooding issues around Pensacola or Panama City, Destin, some of those areas through the Big Bend. And then along the South Carolina and North Carolina coast, just south of our area, we do have that level 2 threat. For Hampton Roads, it's the south side, really the southernmost parts of Chesapeake into Suffolk, areas out to the west, and then northeast North Carolina under a level 1 threat for potential flooding. As we look ahead to tomorrow, again, a level 1 threat, this time just south of Hampton Roads in the metro area. And then as you look across eastern North Carolina, chances for some excessive rainfall extending all the way back to Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana down towards New Orleans. Back across the central U.S. from the lower peninsula of Michigan through Chicagoland, St. Louis, back into the southwest part of the Show Me State, again across Oklahoma and North Texas. More opportunities. It's just a level 1 threat, but still an elevated threat for excessive rainfall. And then another area back across New Mexico and Arizona. Some of these areas a little farther to the west in the southern parts and southwest part of the U.S. could still use some rain. They were so dry for so long. All right, we're going to take a look at what's going on with the air quality, and we have talked about the wildfires burning in Canada. We're going to show you some video in a moment, but I wanted to show you how poor the air quality is right now in North Dakota. Code red, meaning unhealthy for most groups. As we take a look back across parts of the Southwest, we've got poor air quality, southern parts of Arizona, moderate air quality, Southern California, with some of the Central Valleys having unhealthy air for sensitive groups. We'll zoom in and take a closer look at some other parts of the country as well, but I want to take you to the reason for this poor air quality up here across the Dakotas. Wildfires are burning in Canada, and again, those wildfires and all that smoke is impacting air quality here in the United States. So alerts are now in effect for parts of the Dakotas and for Minnesota. Take a look at this, the haze in St. Paul. The air quality index in the northern part of the state is expected to go red again, and that's going to continue as we go through the day tomorrow. The rest of the state's been under code orange and now down to code yellow, but it's going to get worse again as I show you the wildfire smoke coming up. This has been one of the worst wildfire seasons for Canada in decades, and those fires burning in Manitoba, which is in central Canada, it's been going on for weeks. So we do want to take a look. All right, here's a look at that air quality. I mentioned what's happening right now. You'll notice some wildfires contributing to some poor air quality there in Colorado. And as we take a look back in the eastern U.S., it's kind of moderate. You see some of the areas that were dealing with really poor air quality before. It's not as bad as it has been right around New York. It's unhealthy for sensitive groups. For Hampton Roads, we're in good shape. But it's what's coming up next as we take a look. And I'm going to step back out of here so we can put the wildfires on. So let's take this map full. And what I want to show you, again, wildfires that are burning back across parts of Colorado and Utah. As we take a look, you're going to find, again, the flames. They've been somewhat concentrated as we go back. Let's jump back to the air quality. And then I'm going to go ahead and reload this page so hopefully we'll get a look at some of the fires that are out there across Salt Lake and back through the Denver area. Wouldn't you know it, the flames would not jump on. But trust me, they're western parts of Colorado and southern parts of Utah seeing some wildfires. I'll go ahead and put a few symbols up. Again, some of the activity's been there. We've also seen some of the wildfires burning just north of California. Now up into Manitoba, and again, the wildfires have been so numerous up in this area across Canada, and we've seen the winds coming down from the north, and that's produced the smoke issues that we've been seeing back across the Dakotas this morning. It's coming down into this area, but we're going to see it eventually shifting back into Minnesota. So let's take a look at the smoke forecast and what's going on with this. You can see again that smoke has been intense across the Dakotas, but look at what happens here as we go through the evening. You see how it shifts back across Minnesota. That's why we're worried about the air quality deteriorating there. You'll also notice back in western parts of Colorado and California, we're seeing some of that poor air quality as well, with the smoke impacting those areas from those wildfires as well. Now, what I want to focus on, this area up in here, and we've got some of this smoke more intense breaking across northern Minnesota. This is through tomorrow, 7 p.m. So while they've got their issues today, it's going to get worse up that way tomorrow. And you can see, again, western Colorado and parts of southern California also dealing with the smoke. Right now, thousands of firefighters in both northern and southern California are battling several wildfires. The Ponderosa fire has forced evacuation in parts of Yuba County. So far, the flames have scorched nearly 100 acres and it's 17% contained. Meanwhile, crews are starting to make progress stopping the Gifford fire near Santa Barbara. That one has been massive. It covers more than 118,000 acres and is now 33% contained. Izzy Romero has a closer look.
Santa Margarita, smoke from the Gifford fire coats the air.
This is probably the most nervous I've been about a fire in a while.
And with the fire only 20 miles away from North County areas, community members flocked to Santa Margarita Elementary to get any information they could from fire agencies battling the Gifford fire. Every person there in search of positive news.
All the brush and everything, it can move quickly, so everybody's getting more concerned, a little anxious.
For the last days, the north side of the fire has been the focus. I met with Rich Egan, Incident Management Team 5 Public Information Officer, just before the community meeting. He shared some of the ways they're fighting the fire from here on.
We have hand crews, we have engines, obviously we have water takers to support the engine. We have dozers everywhere, we have aircraft. We're putting everything we can on this fire.
When I asked wildfire managers if they had an estimated date for full containment, they told me they're cautious to jump to any conclusion. For now, Officer AJ Ponce with CAL FIRE says they're ultimately trying to prevent evacuation fatigue.
When we issue warnings or orders for folks, they may find some other type of shelter, but then once we allow them back in, and if conditions were to change and we issue another order for them to leave, they may not be so inclined to do so given their previous experiences.
The SLO County Sheriff's Office addressed concerns regarding looting and burglaries in evacuated homes, saying they are patrolling those areas to stop that from happening. And speakers announced that New Life Student Center is now open as an evacuation shelter, and in North County, Atascadero Bible Church is ready to open if needed. And despite so many concerns, people in the Santa Margarita community say they appreciate all of the different agencies pulling together. And they're especially proud of all the firefighters on the front lines.
But CAL FIRE is amazing, so I know if anybody can stop it, it's going to be them.
And we hope they continue to gain some more upper hand on that. It has been something else. Taking a look now, I got all the flames to go ahead and actually plot on the maps here. Again, we've been watching this area down around Santa Barbara and the fires here in the western part of Colorado. There are numerous small fires, but those are some of the bigger ones that we've been talking about. And then that concentration of fires up, as I mentioned, across Manitoba. So again, the smoke there is going to work to the east, and then that intense activity expected across northern parts of Minnesota tomorrow. All right, here's a look at the satellite images across the country. We've got that wet weather right here. You can see some unsettled weather for the southeast U.S. We'll come back to that in a moment. But not only do we have the issues with wildfires here in the United States, we also have issues overseas. And we're talking about Spain, specifically northern Spain, and then up in the northern part of Scotland. So again, it's not just North America dealing with the wildfires. Let's take a look at a couple of these burning in Europe. Wildfire broke out on Arthur's Seat in Scotland, which is the extinct volcano overlooking Edinburgh. The smoke has been thick near the landmark, which is popular among tourists. And I'm going to show you a picture there from a nicer day that I was able to take a year and a half or so when I was visiting. It is absolutely gorgeous and a great hike, but obviously very smoky there. In northern Spain, several wildfires have forced more than 1,000 people to evacuate. The country has been experiencing a prolonged heat wave. Such a mess there. Now let's zoom in and show you up around Edinburgh, and you can see for this part of Scotland, we have this right now some cloud cover up there, but that wildfire's on the east side of the city. And from Edinburgh, you take a look and you can see from the top of Arthur's Seat, there's well-hiked trails you can go up. Highly recommend if you ever get over to Scotland and you're up there in the city and you're visiting, you want to see the castle. There's so many cool things to do in Scotland. Absolutely loved our trip there, but it's definitely worth taking a hike to the top of Arthur's Seat. And this is a look back down, looking back over towards Edinburgh from the top of Arthur's Seat. You can see off in different directions as you hike up and you look out over the city. It is gorgeous. And this wasn't even from all the way up at the top, but it's a good hike. You'll need to be in pretty good shape, but it's something that certainly you can manage if you allow time for it. But it is absolutely breathtaking. And right now, the areas on fire are just off in front of this kind of edge of this hill and this little grassy area down the front. That's where those flames are coming up. And they believe that it was sparked by human activity, which isn't a huge surprise given all of the folks going up and down. If they've got really dry brush there and somebody just carelessly discards a cigarette or something, that there could be an issue there. But definitely something to check out. We do like to share that with you. And again, loved our trip to Scotland back in October of 2023. Take a look here at the earthquakes, because we're going to go back overseas and take a look at Turkey, where, take a look, this was yesterday. We had a 6.1 magnitude earthquake right there over western Turkey. You can see pretty far south of Istanbul. This, a 6.1 magnitude, it shook Turkey and the damage in the northwestern part of the country. You can see this right now where more than a dozen buildings collapsed. We know at least 29 people are hurt, and I believe there was at least one fatality there as well. Rescue operations are still underway after 16 buildings collapsed. All right, so that's a look at what's going on overseas. Now we're going to bring it back here and talk some more about the tropics and what's going on. Here we are, August 11th. about a month away from the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season, and you can see the spike that we're anticipating. When you look historically, this is where most of the activity occurs, from early to mid-August through mid-October, and then things really quiet down. Of course, a lot of times it takes some time to ramp up. Sometimes we get some early season storms, and we've had 4 named tropical storms already. But now we're getting into the period where we expect more and more development. All the ingredients are going to be there, and we are anticipating more activity. So let's talk about what's going on. The next name on the list is Erin, and we have a system out there out in the eastern part of the Atlantic that is likely to become Erin. You can see I'm also monitoring a little bit of convection or storminess here in the northeastern part of the Gulf along an old frontal boundary. We need to keep an eye to that. But the Hurricane Center's basically identified 2 areas. This area here that only has about a 10 to 20% chance of development. And then there's this area here that just is clearing Cabo Verde. And that area there has a very good chance of development. So there you go. Again, you can see, oh, that's a new area that they just identified as well. But both of those, again, very low risks for development. This is the area that we're watching with a 70 to 90% chance for development as it moves along. This is an area now being investigated. It's Invest 97L, and you can see how the models carry it to the west and then turn it to the northwest. Now, I'm sharing this with you. Here's Bermuda, and here is Hampton Roads, Southeast Virginia, North Carolina, the Outer Banks. That's Cape Hatteras right there. Obviously, you see the Bahamas, and you get into the Turks and Caicos. You can see, again, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico there. On this path, this system should take a turn more to the north here, and both the models are carrying it between Bermuda and the East Coast, but they do keep it pretty far to our east. So that's how things are looking with the general thinking, and there's very good agreement here. The model's pretty much in line that they're going to take this turn. I want to show you the outlook, and this is the Euro and the GFS model. Look at how closely these 2 models are aligned. And again, there's Bermuda right there. So as it comes along, this is by the end of this week, Thursday into Friday. You see that's when these models are having this thing start to ramp up. You get into our tropical storm or hurricane development potentially, and then they really ramp up. There's, again, Bermuda passing north of Puerto Rico, well to the north. Here's Norfolk and Hampton Roads. You can see that turn anticipated to the north. On this case, the Euro comes pretty close to Bermuda, putting it on that dirty side, that right front quadrant right there as it's cutting to the north. So that would be a pretty hard hit for Bermuda. The GFS, or the U.S. model here, excuse me, the GFS is the yellow model here on this particular thing. The Euro is a little farther to the west of that, but the GFS kind of brings it closer to Bermuda and then carries it off to the north and to the northeast. The Euro really ramps it up here, but keeps it far enough to the east that the really bad weather would be offshore. We would see certainly a lot of increased wave height. We'd see maybe some beach erosion along the Outer Banks with some of the swell activity coming out from this. But this is through the middle of next week, around the 21st. So we're going to watch these. Again, things could change. They could swing farther west, which would be a big trouble potentially for parts of the East Coast. They may recurve even earlier. A lot could happen. Maybe it doesn't develop in the way that the models are suggesting. But right now, those models are in really good agreement that it's going to take a turn to the north and likely stay well to our east through the middle of next week. We're going to watch it, and you can bet we'll keep you updated right here at 13 News Now. We've been tracking some unsettled weather off the Mexican coastline. We'll continue to do that. What was at one point a stronger system, Ivo, is now just down to a depression, and it's not going to be with us much longer. 5 o'clock update shows maximum winds 35, moving to the west-northwest at 10 miles per hour. Then you've got Hurricane Henriette, well north of the Hawaiian Islands, kicking up some more swell and wave height, moving towards the north shores there. The surfers loving it, but there's, aside from that, the brunt of this storm is well north of the Hawaiian Islands, and that's a good thing. As it moves off to the north, it will eventually weaken. All right, I want to talk to you more about what's been going on. Since we started the month of August here in the Mid-Atlantic, we've seen a big temperature kind of pattern break. We were so hot for so many days in July with excessive heat warnings and heat advisories. It seemed like we had days and days of them. At one point, I think we had 3 days in a row under excessive heat warning. The last day of the month in July was Thursday, July 31st. That day, we had a high of 95. Since then, we have stayed in the upper 70s to low 80s each day, including yesterday. Today, we're going to stay in the low 80s. We'll be in the mid 80s tomorrow and then upper 80s. So we may actually see temperatures back up a little bit above average Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Last time we picked up any significant rain at the airport was last Thursday. We've seen a few areas with some mist and drizzle, but nothing heavy around the airport or heavy enough to really measure up in the airport since last Thursday. I think we will see pretty good chances for some showers to develop around Norfolk International this afternoon, and we've got more chances coming up over the next week. Looking ahead, forecast highs, as I mentioned, staying below average today and likely tomorrow, and then at or maybe even a degree or so above average Wednesday into Thursday. Severe weather outlook across the central U.S. Let's zoom into the north, across Minnesota again and parts of North Dakota, eastern North Dakota. Level 1 threat there. Gusty winds, some hail, neither one of those a great chance. So really not much going on as far as severe weather potential. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center has not really indicated anybody that they're really overly concerned with tornadic development. So that's good news. Again, some gusty winds and maybe some larger hail, potentially with some storms down across Oklahoma, Texas, and back into New Mexico. How about tomorrow? Only one area across the country identified with that elevated risk, and it's just at level 1 or marginal risk again. It does include Green Bay. So parts of Wisconsin, you can see north of Milwaukee, Green Bay all the way up through the northern or upper peninsula of Michigan. You can see close to Marquette there, just east of Marquette, that level 1 threat. So not a lot of area in the country worried about severe weather tomorrow, but around Green Bay and some of those areas in eastern Wisconsin, we will keep an eye to things. Skies are mostly cloudy. There are some breaks here and there. It's not a bad day. Temperatures are starting to warm up a little bit. And here's some more good news. If you're here in Hampton Roads, maybe visiting and thinking about heading out to the beaches, we do still have a moderate threat of rip currents. And while that's not great, it's better than it was last week when we had a high threat of rip currents almost each day. So because the winds are lighter today, the rip current threat has gone down a little bit, and we are talking moderate threat all the way down through the southern Outer Banks and north there around Wallops up through Ocean City, Maryland. Here's a look at the beach forecast. Today, the UV index still very high, some peaks of sunshine. Won't take long to get a sunburn. There could be some isolated to scattered showers later this afternoon. And again, stay mindful of that moderate threat for rip currents. On the water today, winds east and southeast, about 5 to 15 knots on the bay, 5 to 10 knots with gusts to 15 on the ocean waters. Seas running about 2 to 3 feet. We've got a high tide coming up 11:16 this morning and the low tide just before 5:30. We have seen a few stronger storms south of Ocracoke here and south of Hatteras. So that's where the intense activity's been. Just some light sprinkles across parts of Hampton Roads. We're actually dry right now, but as we zoom in and pick up our future cast, you will see the potential for developing showers later today. A couple sprinkles showing up down around Nags Head and Manio, maybe around Kill-Double Hills. You might see a shower or two. As we go forward, though, we're going to keep an eye on the radar because eventually I think we could see some showers or maybe even a stray storm developing south side Hampton Roads. A couple of isolated showers, maybe up around Williamsburg or out towards Isle of Wight. Down around the Albemarle Sound, some wet weather there. Heavier rain settling south through Chesapeake and eventually back out to the west. Gates County, back into northern Hertford County. Could see some stronger downpours a little bit later. But again, we're still talking isolated to maybe scattered. Looking ahead through the overnight, skies partly cloudy. Tomorrow, a partly sunny start to the day. Temperatures a little bit warmer tomorrow, back up into the mid 80s. And we are going to see that chance for just a few isolated showers as we go later in the day, mainly down across North Carolina. The models are drier for areas farther to the north. As we get into Wednesday, another chance for wet weather, this time coming later in the day. While there could be a few showers down to the south or off to the north in the morning, I think as we get into the afternoon, that's when we're going to see more showers and storms kind of working across the area. Some scattered wet weather around the evening commute down the peninsula, south side, and out to the west through Franklin. That works through with some heavier rain potentially down to the south late Wednesday evening and into early Thursday morning. Highs today will reach the lower 80s, maybe low to mid 80s for a few spots. Again, showers or storms possible, some scattered wet weather. Up on the eastern shore, you can see skies there, partly sunny. Looking pretty good around Matthews as well, but that chance for a few isolated showers on the peninsula and down into North Carolina. Showers and a few thunderstorms later today. Tonight's low down around 70, partly cloudy skies. Patchy fog possible towards sunrise, and then tomorrow back up to 84. Isolated showers possible. Should catch a little break tomorrow. Down to the south, though, North Carolina could see a little more activity. After that, we'll want to keep an eye on the radar because Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, chances for more scattered wet weather. That's when the temperatures are a little warmer. Winds come around more to the south. Into the weekend, a few isolated showers or storms and isolated wet weather potentially on Sunday. A great way to stay up on the radar is by downloading the 13 News Now mobile app. We always talk about it this time of the show. Want to remind folks you can scan that QR code, download the app, and you'll have updates on traffic, on breaking news, and of course weather with full access to all of our forecast updates and those radars. So good to have those to be able to track what's coming in and what's moving out across the region. Want to thank you for taking this time this morning to join us here on the Weather Desk. We do it each and every weekday morning, Monday through Friday, starting at 9, and we always tackle those top weather headlines from around our region, across the country, and around the world. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.